So it's been a few days since my last video, and today I want to share some of the best tips that got me to where I am today. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm Anne. I'm a senior product designer and a design consultant who has worked in many countries in the Philippines, Dubai, Canada, and I have taken clients from maybe all over the world. I went from thinking that all I could make in a year was just $2,000 back in the Philippines when I didn't really know how money works, and to making like the low six figures. I know to some of you it's not much, but for some of you, reaching this high is also a lot. But there are a few key lessons that are probably very common that I wanted to tackle that helped me get to where I am, and also I hope it would be helpful for everyone. So, the first lesson that I wanted to highlight is don't just rely on your job. The next one is to learn how to handle your personal finances, start a side hustle or business, be okay with taking risks, investing early, and investing in yourself, networking, the myth of work life balance, being open to failures, treat other people like they're your classmates, and how life is so short, so you have to pay attention to things that matter. I'm going to go over all of these points, but along the way, I'll be sharing my story. So, in college in the Philippines, when I was probably in my first year or second year of college, I was thinking to myself that I hated going to school. I hated having to go to all of the lessons that I felt like wasn't really helping me out. I thought that I would just be happy to earn 100,000 pesos in a year. And if I got that salary, I felt like I could somehow get out of this feeling of maybe not getting what I thought was worth it. For those of you who don't know what that means, 100,000 pesos is roughly $2,343 in Canadian and maybe like around $2,000 in USD. And so I felt like there was a time when I couldn't leave the home and I was just staying there, and like I was wondering, should I still go back to school or should I just quit and start a business? I felt like I was going nowhere. And so that brings me to my first lesson, which is to not just rely on your job. So I was wrapped up in the idea that obviously a business makes sense, but I didn't really know how to get there. I had no training, I had no idea how businesses run. I've seen my parents run their own businesses, but I also didn't know how they scaled it. But I don't think it scaled at all. Uh, and 10 years later, like now that I'm working and I've reached the point where I made like 100,000 in a year, or more or less. So it's still heavily taxed, so I can't enjoy all of it. But while it feels that it's that big, it also doesn't feel big just because of all of the expenses. Despite that, I overshot my goal by 42 times. And let me tell you this, I I thought that if I reached this this place, I would be happy, but actually I'm not because I lost my job. So I recently lost my full-time job, and the problem with having a job is my main source of income being tied to my job is bad. Like if I didn't have any other source of income, then I'm a sinking boat. So I'm actually glad that here in Canada, I'm able to I'm able to get access to things like employment. Sorry, is that right? EI, employment insurance, and that allows me to get the support from the government when I'm not making enough or I'm still looking for a job. So back to my first point, when I was not satisfied in the Philippines, I ended up going back to school because like I was told that you have to finish your college, get a degree just so that you can be employed by someone else. And for the most part, I feel like that's how other people are doing it too. And it did help me in a way because like it allowed me to get noticed by people who believe in that kind of system. I finished in LaSalle. So LaSalle is a big name in the Philippines. So when I moved to Dubai, I was noticed by someone there, and it made it easier to find an employer in that sense. So the next lesson that I wanted to share with you is learning how to handle personal finances. So I still had thoughts on the business and stuff like that, but it was like a hazy idea in my head. I thought that maybe if I got employed by someone, I would have an idea of like how businesses are run. So I've read a lot of books like Rich AF or one of Dave Ramsey's books, The Psychology of Money, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and so on. I like reading a lot. And so what they're talking about, like if you were going to join this idea of like just making money for someone else, the least you could do is to pay yourself first. So pay yourself first, meaning you should probably invest a small part of your income into um, something like stocks. But I don't like stocks, and I've been using S&P instead because it's just a no-brainer for me. I just put it there, and I know that it will grow. I also considered investing on property, but this is very difficult just because like if you're in a full-time job and you lose your job, then your property will become sort of like a liability, which is what I'm facing right now, but thankfully I'm not there yet. um, the other advice that people kept giving was find a better paying job instead of sticking to the job that may not make ends meet. So let's say I was earning $30,000 instead of like over $100,000 in a year. So if I did that, then I would not be able to buy a house. I would be able to feed myself, but I would probably have to like rent farther away in the city. I couldn't live in the city, or maybe I could rent in the city if someone else was willing to take me on basically for free, or I would have to sublet. Is that the term for it? Or like become a bed spacer. And I've been there in the past. And it's not like you don't get privacy. You're like it's okay if you're not spending most of your time at home. But there comes a lot of things like you have to deal with. If you don't have enough bathrooms, then you have to deal with like how do you use the bathrooms, what schedule, when is this person gonna. So there's a lot of sacrifices that you have to make if you're not making ends meet. And for myself, I'm lucky because I didn't really have to support anyone at that time except like sending money back to family, because like that's the thing in the Philippines, you send money back to your family. Um, but it was a small portion of my salary. But for some people who have families, I think it might be a good idea to think about where else could you look for to earn more so that you're actually able to satisfy all the needs. I didn't have debt. I I was a very like earlier on I didn't have debt. Now I have a big debt because of my mortgage. But earlier on I didn't like the idea of owing someone money, and I just made sure that I had enough savings. So part of that is like having an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months. So before I even learned about this concept, I just kept saving and saving and saving. So I didn't really want to go out and splurge. I felt like when I was in Dubai and I was in my first job, I saved a lot of money. And then in my second job there, I saved even more money. And I was going to use it for something else. So the problem with this approach is that you can't really use your job as a leverage unless your job is earning you so much money. Like maybe you're working in a fan company or tech, or you're a doctor maybe. And like the proportion that you get out of the investments that you have is not as high compared to like the thing that you put in. So I think it still helps that you have a job or something that pays you a lot. So the other thing with a job, so it's related to my first point, is that I'm trading my time for my skills. And so while I love my job, I don't get me wrong, I really enjoy becoming a product designer and helping businesses solve problems and stuff like that. I thought to myself, would I be in this situation for let's say until I turn 65? And I realized that that's not where I wanted to go. So I've met like a career coach and a lot of mentors in my. Okay, that's not how you spell coach. Uh, is that how you spell coach? Okay, I can't spell for the life of me. So I've met a career coach, and she mentioned that you have to imagine like what is your ideal life? What is your ideal life? What is your ideal day like? And what do you really want? Like it's kind of like envisioning yourself of like where do you want to go, and what are the steps that you need to take in order to get to this point. So I've been fortunate that somewhere in my career I was able to get access to these types of people, and they helped me figure out like where do I really want to be in life. So I knew that I wanted to pursue writing, for example. I wanted to do more research. I also wanted to pursue my career in product design or UX. Wanted to do a business, and I wanted to get richer just cuz like if you have a lot of money, a lot of things in life are easier. And I don't know, I wanted to get out of like this frame of mind where I feel like I'm just surviving and trying to figure out what do I do next. So I every time that I think about what do I do next, I try to see if like does it lead me to my ideal life and like how to get there. But obviously it's hard because like I need the skills, the knowledge, experience, and these things are not like easily acquirable. So that's why I thought that, being in a job is great, but I can't really pursue all of these things in just a job. So I thought lesson number 3, start a side hustle or a business. And I suck at this. I tried starting a business. So when I was in Dubai, I was employed by a company called Al Najma Stationery. So I was making a lot of like books and notebooks in both Arabic and English, and I was doing packaging design. I had access to suppliers from all around the globe, and I would coordinate with them, and I would also check like for grammar. I even did photography, and I feel like after working with them for a year, I got bored and I thought that maybe I could do this myself. And so some people in the company told me that I might not be ready for it yet. I may probably need to have more training at work. But then I thought, I'm just going to try doing it. So I tried starting a business. But obviously, you can't just start a business. Like, the number one thing that I was missing was the skills aspect. So I didn't know how businesses run, even though I had people around me that I could, talk to and ask. I didn't read any business books. I didn't take any courses. I had no training. But I asked around, how do you get started? So I started. I I started the business with like 2 people who are close to me. One's my best friend. And so we tried looking for clients, and that was my first time trying to present ideas to multiple types of industry. So I went back to the Philippines. I filed for like a business permit or something like that. We had an office, a physical office space that I renovated as well with some of the money that I earned while I was in Dubai. And then I reached out to people, contacts, and found some clients, and then also found some printing press supplier for some of the projects that we were working on. And it was not easy. So I found myself attending like conventions and selling my art because I'm also an illustrator and a painter. I presented to people like cafes, people who owned a school, and people who were working with different hotels, and also like a co-op. So I had a different like I had experience presenting to all of these people, and I knew that I could help them with their businesses, just using my talents in graphic design at that time. So I was not trained in UX, but I was trained in like graphic design and web design. So I help people come up with strategies and how do they improve their websites. So I feel like that's a little bit of like UX even back then. I was 22, And I didn't know how to advertise it. I just kept getting referrals from people. So we earned a bit of money, but it was not like zillions of money. It was more like it was just enough to meet clients here and there. And I feel like that first business venture of mine didn't work out because like I didn't know how to price myself. So I will tell you one mistake that I had was that I didn't have another source of income. I was just doing the business full time, and we were trying to create a product for children in a school, and like that product was to have like watercolor paper. I thought that I could reach out to my contacts in Dubai for the supplier that they had, that that allowed them to sell really good watercolor paper, and that didn't work out. So we thought that maybe we could cut up like the huge pieces of watercolor paper and then put that in a package. So I went to a printing press and asked, can we create like a box that is customized and branded for this particular thing that we wanted to sell? And we got like a very high price because apparently you can't, like, this was before when I think now you can do this a bit more, but before they'd have to create like custom mold to get everything cut. So like the more orders you make, the better, the cheaper it gets. But since we're only ordering like 40 or 50, it was exponentially high. So I shared that, not thinking to myself that maybe there's like other ways to solve this problem. I shared that with the client, and the client was outraged, and well, I kind of like made my contact, the person that referred us to this opportunity, feel, I guess, stupid or embarrassed that why are we charging exorbitant prices? And I didn't know how to handle this kind of problem because like before, I would always just get yeses and yeses, and it was the first time that I was getting pushback, and I was getting a client that was upset about the price. And I realized that that's normal. There are people who will never accept the price because it's too high and outrageous. And even now, I think to myself, maybe that was a little stupid. We should have just agreed to create like a sticker and then slap that in a plastic folder and then put the watercolor paper, and it would have brought the price really, really down. I like way down. Um, so I still suck at it, but now I'm an independent design consultant, and so I sometimes get people reaching out to me for opportunities, and while it's been really fun, I feel like I should do this more just because like the job market is hard, so it's not something that I do all the time, but I do welcome it just because I have so much experience in like a lot of things related to design. And so this brings me to my next lesson, which is being okay with taking risks. So if I was not okay with taking a risk, I would have not tried opening my first business at 22. I would have not kept going. But eventually I realized that, I had to move forward. So it was hard to make money in the Philippines because like a lot of people wouldn't, like, at least the people I knew back then wouldn't pay for my services. Um like very high compared to if I was in Dubai. So I went back to Dubai, and I think that was a good thing because like there I managed to get into events. So there's like a challenge of like moving from country to country. You do have to adapt to the people that you meet. The culture is different, and I think it was also a much needed change. Because like if you just stay in a place, in a one place, then you will adapt to the environment that you're in. Your ideas, your thoughts, and your beliefs kind of reflect the people that you normally work with. So in a sense, moving to Dubai helped broaden my perspective on things, and I felt like I had a chance because like if other people could do it, because I've seen a lot of Filipinos thriving in Dubai, then I could do it too. So I realized that a lot of things in life are not easy. Like you do need to challenge yourself and try it out. Like, it's not easy to find clients, and I tried working with friends too. So this is like another side hustle. Some people reached out to me, and the first people who reached out to me were friends of friends who wanted so many revisions to their work. I didn't have a contract that time, so I couldn't like, I'm still getting a lot of experience out of the things that people requested from me, but now I know how to protect myself. So if, for example, someone was to ask me for a job and then they realize they don't like working with me, then I have a clause where it says that, you can't really use these designs if you haven't paid me the full price, or that you have to pay me 50%, and if you decide to cancel, then 50% upfront. If you decide to cancel, then you will get no refund. So I have contracts like that set up now. But yeah, in Dubai, like after my first job of like selling notebooks and coloring books, and I was in the events company. And in the events company, I was happy to be found by Expo Trade. It was an amazing time for me because like I was working with government and big sponsors, organizing like conferences in the Middle East where there's like 500 to 1,000 plus attendees, all in the executive or director C level space. So they were all geared around like improvements for the city, like smart city initiatives. And I wish that I took advantage of that. So lesson number 5 is remember the thing about financial education and around investments. So I wish that someone told me that I should invest in myself a bit more, and also that I shouldn't just rely on what other people were telling me. So at that time, I didn't know how to handle my finances in the best possible way. I grew up in a household that didn't believe in using credit cards. So even though I had one, I never used it, or I never tried to look for a better credit card. I would pay for everything with a debit card. And the only positive thing around that is I never incurred debt, at least during that time. And I was saving a lot of money because I was so afraid of not having money when something bad happens. And I also hated the fact that people would borrow money from me. So if I were to think about it now, I would be more open to investing money on something that I think would be great. Like if someone was ever to start a business and I would have a stake in it, then great. But like if people were just to borrow money from me, I feel like I learned the hard lesson that it's not easy to keep asking for it because it can ruin your relationship with that other person. So I tried to avoid that. And so all of my money was just pooling in a savings account at that time. And I thought that, maybe I could make use of this. Like now thinking back, I could have grown it a bit more if I just put it in a high interest savings account, like high yield savings account, or if I learned how to put it into the S&P 500 or something similar. And I could have looked into better credit cards that have travel perks like the one I have right now, which allows me to travel to different countries if I needed to, using the points that I accumulate. And so the last thing that I wish I did was investing in myself. So I didn't take any courses while I was in Dubai. I was just learning. Well, I learned a lot in my job, but I feel like I could have learned so much more if I bought more books, if I took on training courses online. Anything to get ahead, so to speak, and be able to utilize my talents and grow much, much faster than I did now. So the other thing that I made a mistake of, and I'm still kind of practicing it right now, is networking. So I was in a conference space. I was with Expo Trade, and it's funny because way back in college, I was a very social person. Because I was not having fun, in just attending the classes that I was taking. I was in information technology at that time. I realized that I was learning more when I participated in different organizations. So I was part of like the debate society and honor society because I was earning like I was a scholar, an academic scholar at one point. That meant that I was like the top highest grade in the college at any given time. And then I was in a society for that liked cosplaying, so it's called Bridge with an exclamation point. That was fun. We cosplayed a lot, and we also dealt with sponsors. And I managed to make like 50 events that. So we were doing it in school and outside of school. I learned how to handle people from within my community in the school, and then outside the school, I knew how to talk to different people and utilize their talents and create like different brigades that did stuff like cooking, dancing, arts, and also sent people to different leadership training, which I was also a part of. And then I was part of like Lavoxa. So Lavoxa was like a publications team where I think that's when I realized that I really wanted to do design. So I was the head layout artist of a couple of publications, and those publications, like every time that I made a contribution, they paid me money. So I think that was like my first time that I got paid for my work in design, and they those publications won a lot of awards, which I'm quite proud of. So if you are in Lasal Lipain and if you want to find some training, I would definitely recommend Lavoxa. I'm a proud alumni, and I've met a lot of really awesome people, like people who get awarded for the stuff that they wrote, people who like surrounding yourself with people that exceed helped me exceed as well. So I feel like that was very easy in the school setting. But then when I got out of school, I felt very shy. So I was in the conference and event space, and I was meeting government officials, meeting people who worked in big companies, CEOs. I never thought of adding them in LinkedIn, and I never thought of befriending them because I felt like there was this barrier of like, I just know you from work, so maybe we can't be like really close friends. I mean, I had friends. I tried to befriend my coworkers, especially if I really liked them, and I have like really close friends even now that I reach out to when I'm trying or I need help or like I need advice at certain things. But I felt like I missed that opportunity to just connect with these people. I was like, I feel like that was a big mistake at that time and something that I do want to fix moving forward. And so I was able to attend those events and nothing really came out of it for me. I mean, I did get training. So while I was in the event space, at first I made a lot of mistakes because I was in UB. So when I was hired in Expo Trade, this is another tip that I would share, but it's not a lesson, more like my own stupidity at that time. They wanted to fire me after my first week of working with them, because the problem that I had was the marketing team and the production head was like working with me, and I would publish things on the website. So I handled like 13 events in any given year. And so I would put up stuff in the website and keep updating it. But before, because I really liked typing, it was a very fast typer, I would type everything that they gave me. And so they realized that there were mistakes. There were mistakes in the typing. And I was brought into I was brought into the room and they told me that they can't be checking for my mistakes every single time. I have to do something about it or else they're gonna let me go. And I'm like, I was crying so hard. Oh my god. I remember that because like I was just summoned in the office and I was told very harshly that they can't handle this kind of thing. And so after that, it was a lesson learned. I tried my best to come up with a list of things that they needed checked. So moving forward, I tried to fix that habit of mine. I was just copy pasting everything and also made sure that every single thing that I spotted, um, like periods, grammar, spelling, errors, I also checked that. And then when it came to like coming with design ideas, so I didn't really know what they wanted. Before, I would start with like 5 to almost 10 options, and they would pick one from that. And then later on, I got better and better at figuring out what theme does each brand need. So I would only have like three or maybe sometimes even just one alternative that they could pick from. And we would go with that theme. And so I was doing like website design, and so using HTML and CSS. I also did like a lot of email marketing, so I would create like HTML versions for the email and test that in different devices. And then I started learning that there was a pattern to things. And so once you get a hang of your job, the more repetitive it is, the better. Because like once I was about to leave, I knew everything by heart. And so I would be the one to remind the people in my team, like, hey, this is what's coming up next. Or, hey, have you actually sent this to like your speaker list? Or have you sent like the attendee list to the sponsor so that they can do their reach out with them? So stuff like that, that was still nice. And learning from my job was like something that I was good at. But I still wish that I developed my relationships a bit more while I was in that company. In that regard, there's this thing about work-life balance. So I feel like it's nice when you have it, but sometimes it can also be a dream. And I'm saying this because I have like good and bad experiences around this. So when I was in Expo Trade, they really believe that when you go to work, you spend your time there, your 9 to 5, then after five, you're completely done. This really helped me because, like, after 5, I got to go home and just stop worrying about work. And because everyone else in my team was doing it, I had a lot of, like, balance. Like, I had more time for myself. But then also, the thing with events is, like, the closer you are to the deadline of the actual event, the more the salespeople want to push for more deals. The sponsors want to upgrade or update their information, and sometimes there's like last minute hiccups. Like let's say there was a printing error, and you suddenly have to come up with the files on the spot. And so because I'm working for both the website and the branding for the venue, sometimes, not often, but sometimes I would be staying in the office until like 6, 7, or I think the latest I had was 8 p.m. And I was complaining a lot when when I was still there because we had this idea that 9 to 5, after 5, no more. I don't remember if I was getting paid for my overtime too, but I don't think it matters now. So really, the advice I would give anyone is that you have to be your own judge if you're actually okay with this. And sometimes the business just needs that extra push. So I was upset that I had to work extra, but then I met someone from sales, and they told me that when you go into a job, it would be nice to share your value and to learn as much as you could in that particular job. So if someone were to assign me a task, they said that just do it, just take it, because you'll never know when you're able to use those skills in another aspect of life, or your own business, or for your next employer. So after that, I overdid it. So after Expo Trade, like I was currently applying for PR in Canada at the same time. I saved enough and I finished all of like the requirements. I didn't know that, I didn't think I would be getting into Canada as a PR, but eventually I did get here. And so I thought that I should do the same, that I should be more proactive in taking on as much as I can, just saying yes. I said yes to every single thing. And then I burnt out. Like I burnt out really bad to the point that I was not myself anymore. I burnt out and I realized that, as much as like you want to be proactive, as much as I wanted to learn as much and provide value for my team and support them, I don't think that you should compromise on your own health. So I had to check in with myself after that experience. I had to realize that I had to say no more than I said yes to certain things, and that actually helped a lot. Maybe it's a good thing, but also a bad thing. Like when you burn out and you're not able to function as much, the people around you are the ones that would have to take care of you. And while it's unfortunate, it did help me learn what are my limits and what are the things that I can do moving forward. So that's the next lesson. So the next lesson is being open to failure. So in this like strange aspect of my life, I realized that I failed a lot, but I would go down and up and down and up, but I felt like I was still learning a lot. I was still learning from my failures, and like so in design and even product design, sometimes you would have a lot of times where you were working on something and then suddenly it just stops, or you're working on a business goal and then suddenly the executives tell you we're not interested in this anymore, let's do something else. Or you make a big mistake, like a big blooper. um like I make mistakes. There's a couple of times actually, so even though I pay a lot of attention to detail, sometimes I rush things. And there were a couple of times where I submitted my resume and my resume had jumbled dates because I copy pasted the wrong thing. And so I didn't check that before I sent the resume. And I feel like I lost the opportunity to join some of the companies, and they maybe blacklisted me because, this person that says they're really good in paying attention to detail, but like, what is this resume? So I learned from these mistakes. And so I'm open to failing, and I'm also open to just, not being too hard for myself. I feel like with every failure, there's something valuable to be learned, and it's actually better to just fail fast. This is a very key idea in product design. So instead of like building something with your developers, designers can create something, an idea, and then do some research or testing with users before like your own customers, the people that really love your product. And so it'll allow you to understand if the idea that you're pursuing makes sense or not. So let's say you were trying to test if something will sell, for example. So the idea around that is maybe you should create a landing page and then promote it on your main website and see how many people would be interested in paying for that thing that you're trying to sell. But it's hard to communicate this aspect. So I think I've worked in some companies where they're more comfortable in building the actual thing and then testing that out. But like, it's a balancing act. Moving on, just just being open to knowing that I can't always get my way, and I also am not perfect, but I'm still trying. So I get up from that failure actually chasing after like that feedback of like, okay, so maybe I did get hired for a position, or maybe someone didn't like me. So I would be open to like asking them, so what do you think could I have done better? Or like if you could tell me something that would help me improve my way of working with you, what would that be? So I'd ask these questions and also try to proactively learn how how to deal with people, how to deal with problems. I went to therapy. I I tried, because everything leads to bettering myself at the end of the day. So the next lesson that I wanted to talk about after all that failure spiel, I learned that I needed to treat other people like they're my classmates. So while some people you may never be able to easily talk to them, because of circumstances, like maybe they're like a big celebrity, they have security that you can't even take their pictures, and there's like a physical human a legal barrier from even getting in touch with them. But like if you do feel shy like myself, so there was one point in time where I was talking to these really big shot people, influencers, and because I was in the event space. And when I'm conducting my interviews and usability tests, I would talk to founders and owners of businesses and people who owned like a chain of hotels and stuff like that. So I can't let their position or maybe status or success in life be a barrier into like feeling shy because I feel like I'm just nobody. So at the end of the day, I realized that we're all just people. So just imagining that the person in front of me is just a friend or a classmate really helped. So that way I felt like I could connect to a person a bit more. Some people have egos, and I feel like sometimes they are entitled to that ego. But something that I learned is that a lot of people don't have it, and so it makes it easier to approach people and to talk to them. I'm also trying to actively learn how to read people's body language. So I would see if they're frowning or if they're sad or upset. And I try to empathize with them. And it's a skill that's not easy to learn because, like, what people say and what people do and what people look like are quite different things. So I think that's one thing that AI has not yet perfected, which is why I feel fortunate that I am in this industry because it's teaching me a lot of things. Does that sound manipulative? Not really. Maybe it is, but like it's a skill that you need to learn, especially if you're gearing up for something more senior. Communication is key, and reading other people's body language is very important in communication. So, the last lesson that I have is that life is so short, so pay attention to things that matter. So, so a lot of these things, a lot of all the things that I talked about is more around just like getting ahead in life and making more money, which is not the purpose of like living at all. I mean, you do need money to live. That's just how the world works right now. It sucks, but uh, because that's the landscape that we're in, I just have to suck it up and kind of like just deal with it and be okay that this is how things are. I can't just change the world and tell everyone and maybe have universal income so that people don't have to struggle so much. But during COVID and also in the past few years, a lot of things happened to me and my family, and I realized that people could die very like they could disappear in my life really fast, and the things that I do, the actions that I speak, they have impact. Like I can't just let my own emotions always run with me. So I'm working on that actively. I also wanted to die with very little regrets as possible. So I keep telling myself that I want to pursue my own interests. And when I do pursue them, I feel very rewarded. And it's making me emotional right now. Because, like, you know, getting rich makes a lot of things easier. So money allows me to travel and allows me to help people when they need it. And pursuing the things I love, pursuing the things I love, I felt like it brings me a lot of joy. So I was in a band in college singing Japanese songs. I wrote a book and I plan to write more stories. Maybe one day I will share what my pen name is. And I try to travel whenever I can, just so that I could see like the rest of the people who live in this world, what it's like to be in other places in other countries. Because like when you look at the bigger picture of things, so this is me in like a very large Earth, but this is Earth, and this is like the solar system, and like outside of that is like a huge, huge universe. And I'm so small. And my lifespan is so short. But I want my life to matter, even though I feel like very inconsequential to, the rest of the the huge area of existence around me. So I try to take time to appreciate nature. I try to spend time with the people I love as much as I possibly can, even though I know that eventually we are all going to the same place unless someone invents how to figure out, immortality. And that's why I'm doing this. So that's why I'm here in front of the camera. It feels risky, but I've been told that no one really cares. When you first post your first video, I feel like no one would really watch me. My friends and family might not care. Like, they may watch the video, but they may not like it. And I know that my first few videos will suck, so I would be rambling. I wouldn't be on to the point. I probably won't give everyone as much value as I wish I could. But I've been listening to people like Ali Abdal and Alex Hormozy, and I've been following a lot of people in LinkedIn and getting advice from different people from different walks of life. And it's been really inspiring. So, yeah, I just want to try doing this. I want to keep making until I maybe get better at it, because like quantity always is better than quality. I mean, you get to quality after you tried multiple times doing the same thing. I also know that I'm not perfect, nor do I aspire to be. I used to be a perfectionist in the past, but now I'm not. And that brings me to the end of this video. I hope that you like the content that I shared. If you think that this helped you in any way, please feel free to subscribe to my channel and like this video, because that would help me a lot. It would help other people find out this content as well. And I will see you in the next one.